Good morning. I'm going to start this paper in the order of time. This is the paper that has all my film ideas. I'm going to start with the ones that you already know. Now, the first category, Star Wars. 1. Rebirth of the Jedi, beginning of 5-part series. 2. Betrayal of the Jedi, beginning of Downfall. 3. Dimming of the Light. The Sith begin to overpower the Galactic Alliance and kill many. 4. Loss of Hope. The Sith change time, so they go back in time. 5. Peace Within Trust. Jedi win with Starkiller's help. Now to the second category, horror. Bright Eyes, a horror movie about a killer trying to make you see in his eyes. 2. Killer's Paradise, TV show and movie made every few years to test the human instinct. I already told you those first few. Now onto the ones you don't know. And the Worst Life series. I'm going to make the first one, called Framed, a movie about a man's brother who is framed. A movie about making a movie of that. 2. File. Pedophile woman making a framed man's life worse. The same framed man. Now, at rest. The framed man is leaving America to be at rest. Okay, now it's one that I do not have on this paper, but I'm going to recite to you. It is a Lolita parody. It is now a boy instead of a girl. So now the boy is an undercover cop, obviously. He then makes the woman from the film File. He makes her fall in love with him. The thing about that is, he is playing as a underage boy. That is how they catch the woman, and then they make the man who's framed, they make him free. Of course, everyone still hates him. That's why I made At Rest. He's not going to rest. He's going to die. Now, 4. Consciousness. A man thinking he is in a movie because a strange man says something to him. The strange man was somebody who he saw on the news. He wondered who it was. Why did this guy know so many things? Why'd he make me think that I'm in a film? The man was just messing with him. The man was framed, he was just messing with that guy. 5. Therapeutic help. A therapist with a large variety of patients, including a man who thinks he's a movie. What else do we have? We also have many people who are his patients who will help him break bad. That's something. Now in the other category. Starting with The Trail to Freedom, migrant movie. 2. The Passage Within Time, a movie that is filmed with no cuts, no transitions, shows what all can happen within 2 hours. So now, that's not the idea anymore. The idea now is that exact same thing, but we're going to add some stakes. The guy knows he's going to die, and no longer 2 hours, 90 minutes. It's going to be 90 minutes instead. So that was all of April 29th, 2025. Now on to April 30th, 2025. Starting at number 3 of the other category. The Sound of Music. The Sound of Noise. A man who has no interest in music. He has a boring job and is introverted, gets helped by a stranger who gives him more. He helps the guy. He betters him. He gets a better job, confidence to date a woman. The guy even gets married at one point. Now, the thing is, that man was a figment of his imagination all along. It went for years until he noticed that. And then, obviously, you gotta die. So that's sort of like Fight Club. Not really. I'm saying it's its own original thing. So now, the next one in the other category. At number 4, we have The Last Wish. A movie about a Make-A-Wish worker who gets attached to one of his patients, who also betters him. The idea is the kid is the leading point of the story. The kid is bettering the guy. Now that one will be made in association with the Make-A-Wish Foundation. I don't know how I'll do that, but I'll do that in the future. Now, the part that I don't want to do, the one that was suggested to me by my friend, the romance category. Remember, I have no interest in romance. Not yet. Not for another 7 years can I do that. Now, first part. First Sight, a movie about two people who meet by chance and later find out that it was not chance at all, since they have always been nearby but never noticed. So now they live opposite lives, very opposite. For the idea that many people are gonna not watch this, the woman is goth. I don't know why I have to do that, but I'll have to do that for some reason. Make two opposite people. Alright. Now to pass you back to the storyteller. I don't know how he's not freezing, but it's cold out here in Wisconsin. Now, what we're going to do today is do the third film in that other category. We're going to do Sound of Noise. Yet I'm changing it back to its original title, Man Without Music. Without further ado, let's see the film. There's a knock on the door to George's house. George heads to the door, checks who's knocking. Seems to be a mailman. The mailman says his name's Stephen. He remembers George, for they used to be friends back in primary school. Stephen says he still remembers those days, how much he loved the time being friends. George says he doesn't remember that at all. He cares not for they were friends or what they would have done. George then proceeds to try to slam the door on Stephen's face. Stephen stopping him, giving him his number, telling them that they should be in contact. Stay friends. George cares not for what Stephen said. Time passes, some days pass. Stephen keeps on arriving to George's door, trying to make small talk every day. George gets more used to it. Then Stephen tries to take George out of his house, show him better things to do. Time passes. George gets used to being friends with Stephen again. After some time, they begin to contact one another, be better friends. But George still has a boring job. He cannot get out of his work that he has to do every day. Stephen then tells him to take a chance, for Stephen knows an idea, a great idea, an idea that can last years and make him have as much money as he needs. George rejects the idea. He knows whatever it is cannot be good. Stephen and George then proceed to become better friends over time. Stephen then finds out that George is going a bit tired. So Stephen goes to George's house every single day after that, trying to make more conversation with him. Stephen and George become better friends. They laugh together. They cry together. Best friends. They seem to find themselves happy with one another. Best friends they can be. Stephen then tells George that he should pursue some other things in his life, perhaps get a girlfriend. To that point, George agrees. He has nothing else to do. He says bored as ever. We then go to the point where Stephen is now telling George what he must do. Stephen tells George to go to a cafe, search for any women with jobs. Perhaps they have a better job than him that could pay more, pay better. George then goes to that cafe, searching for anyone, finding no one. They wait and wait. After doing this just about for 4 weeks, they finally find a woman that finds him attractive. It gets to the point where Stephen is now the main reason why George gets any game. Stephen is now instructing George what he must do. It gets further and further to the point where Stephen is now telling George that he should finally get married. After a long time of George and his girlfriend being together, Stephen now makes George know that they're best friends, but Stephen must leave as he has much to do. George is now told that he should do all the rest on his own. George now doing all the rest on his own, a bit shy. He tries to pursue the next part of his relationship with his girlfriend. Gets to the point where none of it is fun for him. And his girlfriend shows him music, some great music. He enjoys the music, as he has never listened to music in a long time. Makes him happy. She makes him happy. Years go by, Stephen and George not being in contact with one another. Enough time goes by that George now is being married. The day of his marriage, right after the whole plan is done, right after his whole life is now set, he hears some news. Stephen's dead. The funeral is later that day. George tells his wife that he has something to do. As the wedding is finished, he now has time to do something. She wishes to go with him, but he resigns to what she says. For George must know what he shall do for Stephen. The ceremony of the funeral is done. George sees that Stephen is now on the ground, his tombstone set. George goes to the tombstone. He tells him how sorry he was and how thankful he is for what he had done. George, so thankful for what Stephen had done, thinks about it. Thinks how they used to be friends, what they used to do together. He then tries to think back from when they first met, back in primary. He can recite nothing. He does not remember Stephen. He then tries to think of whenever the first time he saw Stephen was. He now thinks it was in the paper. He read a journal entry years ago, before he got married, that said a man was found missing. A man by the name of Cameron. He then searches it back up, finds out Cameron was the man who died, not Stephen. Stephen's the only name that he put up for him. For George does not know why this is. He believed that Stephen was there all along with him. He then thinks about it. This is most likely his imagination playing tricks on him. But what all his imagination did for him, it led him to the point where he finally is married. He's got the best life he can, a better job, a family possibly. He can lead his life to a better point. He heads to his car. George, now in his car, mourns for what he remembered. He cries. He then sees the reflection of Cameron, who in his imagination was called Stephen. He tells him how he is now knowing that Cameron is dead. Stephen is dead. What he knew was all false. It was a trickery of his imagination. George now thinks. He tells Stephen's ghost, or Cameron's ghost, he's sorry. He's sorry for what he put them up to. George now thinks, what else can he say? As he's thinking, Stephen wraps a rope around him, choking him out. George, trying to pulse his way out, trying to take the rope off his neck, now thinks, how can a deceased be killing me? How can my imagination be killing me? And then George dies. After George's death, he now is in his own imagination, a palace of his mind, an abyss. He will now be stuck there for the rest of his life. He then sees Stephen walking up to him. As he does, George tells Stephen, "Why would this happen? Why would you kill me? Why could such a thing happen? You should not have had the physical power to do that." Stephen then tells him, "You're in an abyss of your mind. You now can imagine all you want. Your thought can overpower your memory. What will happen is in the next few minutes, you will then go to your memory, recite your whole memory. You may imagine some things, and you may still have time to go to heaven or hell, whichever one you imagine." For Stephen is only the consciousness. George is the one with the power. Stephen had done nothing the whole time, never talked to him physically, never surrounded himself by him, never even shook his hand. George thinks back. He knows why that was. For if his consciousness did not do this, then he now knows. In the last few minutes of his life, he killed himself, not Stephen. It was his own mourning that made him know. He imagined Stephen as his idol, as the reason why he lived. He imagined that he was surviving because of someone else he knew, someone so dear to him. He was imagining himself. He imagined himself as what was keeping him alive. But then Stephen tells him, "This whole time, you've been thinking you were going to die. Yet in death you notice. In death you notice that you now are dead. If you think on it, you now know you were going to die this whole time. I simply was there to stop you. You were going to kill yourself many years ago, before you met me, before I conceptualized in your mind." Stephen thinks back. He now can tell George the only reason why he was created was to stop him. George had the best life he could have had, but Stephen wanted him to have a better one. And that's why Stephen went above and beyond on what he did. George had the best life ever. Stephen now leaves, leaving George to his imagination. George noticing he kept himself alive for himself. He had been selfish in his last time, and now he may think the only way out of patience and out of imagination is your imagination. You must imagine another imagination that you do not have. He tries to forgive himself for what he did, but he can't. From there, George, now in his thought, wishes he could have gotten a second chance, wishes he could have done this all on himself, all on his own. If he could have done this without any help. If he could have told his wife he won't come home. From there, George thinks. Only a few seconds left until he's back into his memory. Then he shall go to heaven. Or so he believes. It is up to his mind to conceptualize where he will go. For he may be in an eternal place, taken as his soul, or he may stay in his mind till the last neuron dies out. Today's free sponsor, Grip Fast Nails. I don't know what I'm doing. Anyways, thank you for watching. That was a good film in my eyes. Now, since it never ends, let the show begin.